Corrado, former Vancouver Canuck TSN hockey analyst. I'm sure you had a white spot when you got here to BC with the Canucks.
Listen, everyone says you got to go get the burger. So what did I do? I went and got the burger multiple times. So yeah, that's everyone kind of knows that, right? You got to get the white spot.
Right off the plane to the first white spot you see when you land here.
Iconic.
In British Columbia. What'd you make of the game last night?
Well, there was a lot of goals. Like, it kind of was fast and furious in that regard. And you know what? Like, it's funny with this frenzy, the frozen frenzy, because a lot of the matchups were not great. A lot of the games were not great. And then you're looking through, the scores last night, and I was calling the Habs Rangers game, which it's been a long time since Habs and Rangers would have had a lot of juice, right? But there would have been a time, Carey Price in net, Chris Kreider, there would have been some juice in that game. 10 years ago, Canucks Blackhawks, tons of juice. And Connor Bedard is worth watching for sure, but that would have been must-see TV. Ducks and Sharks would have been appointment viewing as well, 10 years ago. It's like the schedule kind of lined up for 10 years ago.
It's true.
Games as opposed to last night's games. But I think it's always a positive when your power play can go 2 for 3. Positive when you can get Danton Heinen getting 2 goals lower in the lineup. I think there's a lot to like about what the results were for the Canucks last night.
Incidentally, the Alberta games were fabulous. Went to them after the Canucks were done, and you could stagger them, go to the Oilers, watch that, finish, go to Flame. They were good finishes at the very least. Tocchet wasn't yelling and screaming after, but he did critique the win, which you're not supposed to do.
Who said?
Who says you're not supposed to do that?
It's
exactly, Frank.
I don't subscribe to it because it means you stay ahead of things. It means you keep on winning. But he still doesn't like the defensive coverage, and this is something that we've all seen on a nightly basis so far in the 6 games that they played. This defense is struggling right now. They are not what they were in the playoffs last year.
No, they made up so much ground last season, and I think that's if you're talking and you're looking back at kind of the journey that the team went on last year, where you started the year and you were giving up all kinds of chances and you really shored things up by the time you got to the playoffs. That's what you were leaning on because the puck wasn't going in as easily. And then to come back this season and see okay, is it a step back? Are we just, do we have a little bit of a transition kind of roster where, some guys are unsure, but it's just not as buttoned up as it was. But I think, you're in a good spot as a team when you accumulate points, you win games, and the coach can still come in after and say, okay, we got the points, but we didn't do X, Y, and Z properly. So just keep that in the back of your minds that, don't feel overly comfortable or satisfied with how we did it. It's great that we did it, and good teams find a way to accumulate those points and win the games that, that should. And that's a scheduled win against Chicago, who's not a very good team. You have to win that game. But I like that you can leave the rink knowing you got 2 points, but still in the back of your head thinking, okay, we still have work to do and we can button it up a little bit more.
2 practice days this week before the next game too. So you can bet they're going to work on those things.
For me, and I know what Lawrence told us about Vigneault and not critiquing wins, but for me, that's the mark of a winning program. When you sit there and you look at the result and went, okay, it went our way, but there are so many different things in that game where we need to be better if we want to get to where we want to, the promised land, so to speak.
That's why we use analytics. That is the whole reason why people and teams lean on analytics, is because you can win a game. You can have a hot goaltender. You can have a guy who, has a hot night. He scores 2 goals on 3 shots. But over time, the analytics will tell us that this is not sustainable. And if you're looking at the Canucks and kind of where some of the deficiencies lie right now, rush chances given up, they're 28th in the NHL. They are giving up far too much off the rush. Their goals against is top 3rd in the NHL. In front of the net, they're not bad. It's just if you want to be on a night-to-night basis hard to play against defensively, you have to make it hard for the other team to get in the zone. You have to make it hard for them to get to the front of the net. And I think right now, once the other team has kind of established that they're in the zone, the Canucks are not bad. It's just like off the rush teams can kind of pick their way through. And I would imagine that's an issue because those are quick strike plays where, a team doesn't really have to wear you down to get something off the rush.
They did have a good theory that worked well last night. They got a goal just by putting 7 skaters out. And I'm surprised more teams don't do this. Like, okay, it works.
I saw this and I was like, okay, there's 7 skaters on the ice, and everyone counted them up. There was 2 guys going off the ice, 2 guys coming on the ice that didn't exactly like involve them in the play. Like it wasn't bang bang. I don't know. I know I saw a lot of that talk about that on Twitter this morning.
Well, you're right. Not all too many men is actually too many men.
No, but what I don't get is we are going to video review for a microscopic offside.
1 inch offside. Yeah.
Like, how does the review system command center not have purview to say that team had not just 1 additional skater, but 2 additional skaters?
400 extra pounds of humanity on the ice.
Do you remember when Colorado was in the playoffs and they won the Stanley Cup? There was, I think it was the Nazem Kadri goal. Everyone was saying that's too many men. And then all kinds of people came out after and saying, well, because he didn't touch the puck. And even though he was, on the ice, and it's like, I don't know. It's just, there's missed calls every night. It just is what it is.
Yeah. Hey, Dan Heinen gets off the mat here with a couple of goals. He had somewhat of a sluggish start. He started on the top line with Miller and Besser, has found his way down the lineup. Give us the scouting report. What kind of player is this Danton Heinen when he's at his best, Frank?
I think when he's at his best, like he's got some pace to his game. He can skate pretty well. Good hands, guy who can make some plays for you. He's not an overly explosive offensive player. But I think the switch for him playing lower in the lineup might actually do him some good. I just, when you play lower in the lineup, I think you have no choice but to follow the guys that you're playing with into whatever they're getting into. So if the speed is a little bit more, if it's a little more rugged, like that kind of drags you along. And I think, from what I maybe saw earlier on in the season, when he was playing on the top line, it just seemed like it was perimeter, not overly engaged, not overly competitive. And then, when you kind of get shuffled down, you see, okay, like I kind of have no choice now because A, I've been moved down the lineup, and B, the guys I'm playing with, that's their game. So I got to drag myself along here. So that was probably the right move for him. And, ideally he has the skill that he could, have some production higher in the lineup, but maybe the right thing for him right now is to kind of keep him honest with his game, and making sure it's a little more workmanlike than it was when he was playing on the first line.
Is it going to be harder for a guy like Daniel Sprong to get back into the lineup right now, given what's happening around him, and given that Dakota Joshua probably is, week to 2 weeks away at max? I mean, I can, because I think ideally Sprong is back in that top 6, and then you've got a third line where maybe, it's Höglander and Heinen as your wingers, which is be a nice third line. And then your fourth line is Oman, Sherwood, and who am I missing there? But, they're
Baines.
The 4 lines look pretty good.
Yeah.
If you can get Sprong back in the lineup and shift everybody down. But I don't know that I see an avenue where the offense only Sprong is going to woo Rick Tocchet.
It just sounds very busy to try and accommodate.
Yeah. It's hard. Like, I think it's hard to find ways to get guys more ice time when your team is winning and things are going well. Of course you could do it. Like, you could just say, I'm making a point. I just got to do it. Someone's got to come out. I don't want him sitting too long. And to be honest with you, in Sprong's situation, that's what I would be thinking. I would just be thinking, I know things are going well. I know guys are playing well. This is a team. Everyone's got to buy in. I need to get this guy back in the lineup because, you talk about this with good players all the time in game, okay? Let's say they don't kill penalties. Team gets into penalty trouble. They sit there for, 8 to 10 minutes, maybe even more of real time on the bench. They get cold. They kind of lose their engagement in the game, okay? he's a skilled player. He's not the upper echelon of skilled players in the NHL, but at the crux of it, he is a skilled player. If you have him out of the lineup too much and the league kind of, keeps trucking along and the speed picks up and the checking picks up, and then you're going to put him back in after a while, where do you think Daniel Sprong is stuck? Is he stuck in 2 weeks ago's pace and speed of the game, or is he caught up? Like, I just think, he has a lot of offensive upside, and I think the team can use that right now. Like, I know they scored 6 goals last night, but they could still use a little more offensive punch, which he can provide. I would kind of be thinking, let me just make a point to get this guy back in, because I don't want him losing his engagement, and I don't want the league's speed to pass
Yeah.
him by while he sits out.
That's a great point, and that's something that you wonder will come here against either Pittsburgh on Saturday or Carolina on Monday. And I mean, I don't think Baines has been so indispensable that you can sit the pride of story.
Forgot Pew Suter in my calculations.
Yeah. JT Miller, second straight game they won't let him take draws, yet he registers one of the hardest shots in the National Hockey League last night. What could possibly be going on that he's incapable of taking the face-off and yet is shooting the puck with every bit the pace that we know he's got?
The shot that registered as one of the hardest ones, was it the backdoor tap-in? Because that had all kinds of authority on it. Like,
it was third period. I saw Jeff
skating downhill on it, left channel, I believe. But yeah, he tucked that puck in really quickly too. You're right.
It's a good question. Okay, I was obviously not a centerman, so I didn't take face-offs. But my guess is, like, guys can play with taped wrists, taped fingers, and you can still shoot the puck because you can have some torque, through your core. You can really lean into it with your lower body. When it comes to face-offs, I feel like there's a lot of like upper body and wrists incorporated, hand grip strength incorporated. And so if you're asking me, okay, if you have something going on and we can only take one or the other, give me the shot. Let's kind of save yourself for that, and we'll have someone else take the face-offs. I just think there's more like of these smaller kind of muscles in your hands and your arms that are incorporated with the face-off than it would be, wiring a slap shot. I think when it gets into like the snapper, the wrister, it's probably fairly similar. But I just remember so many games having to play with, a screwed up finger or a screwed up wrist, and I could still get by. I could still clear the puck on the penalty kill. I could still take point shots. But I think if I had to take a face-off, like that would kind of feel winding to a certain degree. So I just think there's muscles you can use that can help you still shoot the puck pretty hard.
It was pretty low event when JT Miller's line was out there, but he gets 3 points in the end. Elias Pettersson gets the matchup on for most of the night versus Connor Bedard, gets the 1 point. But they played well defensively. Are we okay with 3 points in 6 games, but some incremental progress within the last 3 games?
Yeah, because the progress is coming. And I think given the way he started the year and just the lack of, if you want to call it drive with the puck or willingness to kind of get it to grittier areas, whether it's, in front of the net, across the crease, just a little hesitation in his game, kind of looking slow-footed
honestly,
at times.
Faster movements. Like in the last couple of games, there's been faster movements, handling the puck. It just looks like it's at a higher speed.
It looks more crisp. Like it looks more crisp. It looks like he's more sure of himself. So yeah, I think, you can live with that. At the end of the day, once 82 games goes by, and if he's somewhere in the vicinity of where he's supposed to be this year, give or take a few, you're not going to look at the first 3 games in the season and say, well, but, like as long as he just keeps getting better and better. And hopefully for him, that's the case, because the team, the team needs, like I said, the team needs offense, and he has to be a big reason why they produce the offense. But the team is different when he's more of a threat than JT Miller. And you can't say that about the Canucks, through the first 6 games where I feel like it's, JT Miller, and his line has been really good. And for Pettersson, if he finds that extra step and he gets the opposition thinking a little bit more, and I know he got the matchup last night, but they're just a different team. They're a different team offensively. It just there's an added element there, and it really just becomes a two-headed monster down the middle of the ice that I think other teams will have a hard time with. But he's not quite there yet, but at least there's some progress happening.
We got your old friend Sidney Crosby here on Saturday, and I'm sure there were some practice battles between you and him over the years.
I doubt it.
You weren't on the ice with Sidney in practice?
Or you just didn't win it?
I was. I don't think it was much of a battle. I'm pretty sure.
Right. Oh, okay.
The puck and did what he wanted with it. But it was like one of the coolest things was
go ahead.
Being at practice in Pittsburgh. And obviously I was, extra guy, used sparingly. He'd be out there longer than most guys. And he
practice habits, man.
He would just
Alvin has told us.
He would grab anyone. He would grab anyone. He would grab me and be like, "Hey, can you come take like 10-point shots here? Or can you pass me the puck here? And can you do this?" And I'm like, "Dude, I'll do anything." Like you just say the word. You're Sidney Crosby, dude. Like you tell me where to go, what to do. We'll do it. It was pretty cool.
I mean, at the end of your career, that's got to be what like.
Oh, you'll tell your girls about
telling
this.
the girls.
Absolutely.
I played with Sidney Crosby is going to be at the top of the list, isn't it?
Hell yeah,
yeah. It has to be. He was the. I was very lucky to play with the Twins and even Toronto. Dion Phaneuf was unbelievable leader, but like Sidney Crosby was the one player where I kind of got like. Deer in the headlights, if you want to call it starstruck a little bit. Like that's, we were walking in Vancouver one day, actually. We were on the road and we went out because we would stay at the Fairmont there, the Pacific Rim. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on your show. Sorry, no, Sheridan Wall Center.
It's all right. It's just the facts.
We would go out the back door just because everyone's, kind of out front there. And there was this sweet old lady kind of walking. There was a few of us, and this sweet old lady walking by us. And as she walked by, you could see her eyes like, perk up. And then she stopped when she passed us, and she goes, "Oh my God, that's the hockey player." It's like in reference to Sidney Crosby. It's like that's if you knew one hockey player, it was Sidney Crosby.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
And then she said, "I'm gonna go tell my grandkids I saw Frank Corrado on the streets."
The hockey player,
oh, that guy on Sekeres and Price.
That's right. Maybe that's gonna happen to you.
We look forward to his visits. We look forward to our visits with you, Frank, each and every Wednesday. Thanks for this, buddy. Until next week.
Thanks, guys.